I'm Dominic Patten from Deadline Hollywood, formerly referred to as Deadline Online. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to get to this very, very quickly. Ian McShane is one of my all-time favorite actors, so I was very honored when they asked me to participate today. I'm very honored that all of you came out on a Monday. Mondays are a tough night, so thank you. And on tough nights, Ian McShane began his professional theater stage career in 1962 at the Arts Theatre in London. Next week, he will be back again as Al Swearingen in his Golden Globe winning, Emmy nominated and SAG nominated role in HBO's Deadwood. So without further ado, Ian McShane.
Hi. Hi, Dom.
Hey.
How are you? Come on, sit down.
Yeah. Well, okay, we're going to go now because it's going to be that's the best it goes. So, 1962 to 2019.
And I was swearing then.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's true. You just reminded me. It was a theatre club. It was a play called Infanticide in the House of Fred Ginger.
Wow, that's a title.
Written by Fred Watson. And it was John Hurt, Tony Beckley, and I played three teddy boys who babysit a kid and drink it to death with gin. And it was 3 months before they did the famous play, Saved. Mm-hmm. The Edward Bond play, which became the big hit. This was sort of really rough, and they had to be done in the Arts Theatre. And even then, it was full of, I was effing and blinding and saying everything.
Was that back in the years when they had the censor?
Yeah.
So was there
the theatre club, you could say what you wanted. Well, that was the days of, the sexual revolution came a little late for me between Lady Chatley Band and the Beatles' first LP.
Yes.
But luckily I was born a little after that. So the 60s were everything. No, they really were.
Well, you were born... just to ask, am I going to get one or I'm just going to yell?
Unforgettable. That's what you are.
This is a Monday night show. This is a real show. That's almost like that thing you did a couple of weeks ago in the American Gods episode when you were in the 30s with the cabaret.
That was sweet.
You can sing, brother.
No, not bad. I mean, well, the thing is about I did Witches of Eastwick back in 1999 or 2000. No, 2000. The musical.
Witches of Eastwick, the play.
The musical.
Yeah.
The Witches of Eastwick, the musical. Yeah. Which got, should have been a lot stronger. But I'd never done a musical before.
Really?
I mean, I'd sung in show, but I'd never done a musical. So it was great. It was one of the most informative and strangest, because they're in another world. People who do musicals, it's like they're so up themselves in a very nice way, but they believe that they're doing something which the world has never seen before the entire time. And people are dancing, but I did all that. I took all the classes and did that, and it was fascinating. But, the show just didn't have that extra thing it had, whatever was due to it. But it teaches you a lot. And that's what you go back to in acting. I mean, you never stop learning. And that's what, much like watching Deadwood the other night was like, wow. Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult thing to pull off.
Well, taking
a 2 hour,
taking an award-winning show, coming back not just years later. I mean, revivals and reboots are all over the place now, but actually transforming the form of it. And I wanted to ask you about that. We're going to kind of go all over the place tonight. So if you're looking for the chronology,
that's boring.
Have another drink.
Yeah,
we're not doing that.
No.
And you can get your tickets back, but I don't think you had to pay for them. In that, what wanted you to bring it? What wanted you to bring it back with David and come and do it again? I mean, because you guys had done. You've done it. It's a great part in your career.
That was the thing. It was always talked about a lot. You read about it. Like, will it be coming back or not? Milch and I would have breakfast a couple of times a year. I'd call Tim, email sometimes, say, how are you, whatever, follow up. And I'd see the other members. Well, I mean, we all kept relatively close. We'd have a couple of breakfasts for a few cast members. But nothing like, we didn't have like a Deadwood revival. It was just like people actually got on, really and you had a shared memory of this incredible experience, which may be the best ever. And when they said, but about a couple of years ago, it sort of got serious when a script that seemed real, because the most difficult thing, we talked about this before, of doing a 2-hour movie, which is a finite thing, of an episodic 1-hour show, which tells a story. So a movie has to encompass a lot more ground. It has to invite new people into it. You can't feel excluded. It can't be an in-joke on the first, but it must link back. And I think what they found 10 years later, making it Statehood Day, Hearst comes back to town. People have got on with their lives, but they come back for various. There was like an anchor to it. There was a reality, and then you could get on with the small revenges after that. Because I think one of the greatness of Milch is that he's a great writer. I mean, and that's what you have, and that's what you have in this. And I was really moved the other night watching it, thinking, yeah, you pulled it off. You know, I really think that, you know, it's not the people I was worried about, it's the quality. It's always a show is the entire thing. Milton Berle once said something very, I always think it was funny, it's like saying, it's better to be shit in a hit than a hit in shit.
Yes.
You know?
Not often you get to pull off a Milton Berle quote nowadays in Hollywood.
No.
Just dropping them.
And after a John Wick weekend, which
Yeah, exactly.
was pretty good for everybody.
And we should, yes, exactly.
No, but
Hold on.
occasionally...
The man is in the movie that took down Avengers Endgame. I think we can give a round of applause, all right? Now, I want to ask you.
Occasionally the gods are in alignment. I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, success is many fathers, wonderful. I mean, whatever happened to Hellboy, that never came out. That wasn't too terrible, but nobody's responsible for that movie. It's a wonderful business, and I like. No, it's
well, mate, you know
so
what?
crazy.
You're going to have a very good May, and that means you're going to have a great summer. So it works out well. But having said that, are you coming back for John Wick 4? Is Winston returning?
I think so. Yeah. No, we don't even talk about that. Again, it's
Well,
like...
hold on a second. You should know that "yeah" is actually the last word in John Wick 3.
But you know, it's one of those great things that originally Chad said, come to New York, you know, have 10 days, it was over Thanksgiving, a nice hotel suite in New York, have a cup, you know, it's a nice part. Everybody was an interesting guest stars, Willem Dafoe, Johnny Legs, you know, and then Adrian Paletsky and Keanu, of course. And it was a tight script, but you know, sometimes you do know. That's why I got a good cast. It wasn't just because we all fancied just a couple. There was something about the script that appealed to, you know, actors fulfill things. He cast it well. He made it look fantastic. Made it New York at night. And Keanu plays the melancholic solo assassin killer better than anybody I could ever. No, and he's also a great guy, which is also makes a big difference, you know. I couldn't be happier for him. And really, and he made it into this, and I remember I was in Atlanta doing something else. Oh, Bolden, another movie that came out.
Oh, that's right.
That's fascinating. That's another one.
Well, right now you have Bolden and John Wick 3.
But they were interesting. I know, but one overpowers the other. It's a shame Bolden don't know much about it. It's Dan Pritzker's movie about the jazz legend who nobody knows about, who invented Dixieland, Buddy Bolden. But you know,
music by Wynton Marsalis.
Oh, and it's it's like a fevered jazz dream. I loved it, but he's sort of, you know, Dan's his own man. He made the movie for himself, for what he wants to see. He made his movie his way. Gary Carr's fabulous. The music's great, and it'll be seen. It'll get out there. Movies always do, but not necessarily on the movies. That's sad, you know.
I'll tell you something funny though. On the way over here, I drove by 2 Deadwood billboards, you and Tim, 1 Bolden, and a fuck of a lot of John Wicks. Which is not a bad drive through LA for someone who in 1965 was in the first production of Joe Orton's Loot.
Oh, that was unbelievable.
Now, how many of you know who Joe Orton is? All right. There's as Ian said, movies never die. There's a film called Prick Up Your Ears starring the great Gary Oldman. Yeah. Watch that as a primer, and then pick up one of the great playwrights of modern Britain, to say the least. Oh, and you were in the very first production of Loot with Kenneth Williams, who some of you might know from the Carry On films.
Yeah, but Kenneth Williams occupied one of those spaces. You've got to be English to understand. He was a huge stage star of reviews. Maggie Smith will tell you, she knows everything she learned from Kenneth Williams. They did a couple of reviews together in the sort of late 50s, early 60s. And Kenny had to, oh dear, hello, very camp, out there.
Uber camp.
Uber camp, but it didn't matter. He was something else. It had nothing to do with anything. He was just incredibly talented, funny, strange, exotic, but very much English and very much a sort of this weird. And they did these reviews, and they did I think it was Peter Schaefer comedy together, and then he was cast in this. And
Which you guys did in
my
Cambridge.
second play.
You did it in Cambridge. That's where.
Oh no, we did it all. We did the classic then, the English tour. You know, you'd start in all the towns, and because this play, Loot was. I mean, I read it. I saw his first play, which dear departed Dudley Sutton, my old pal, was in, which is Entertaining Mr. Sloan. No,
Yes.
Joe's one of the great writers of all time, and like Milt, she's never. Let me cut to the quick a bit, although I could go on stories forever about this. But the director was Peter Wood, who should never have been allowed near the play. No, he's a very good classical director, but it was all sort of camp. It was all like magic. And this was also the classic second play of a great dramatist who had a huge success with the first play. They took it to the West End, dressed it up and gave it the West End treatment instead of doing it exactly like what they should have done in the first play, which is cast it right. They didn't do that, except for Kenny. Kenny played the inspector, and Kenny was so... it was fascinating watching an actor who's an actor huge, who was something, you know, really different, who would do anything and get on stage with him. Watching him get a laugh was amazing. If he failed, he'd stick out his bum and go, woo!
Yeah.
But the first night he came on dressed
So
as
you don't know, if you don't know,
No,
Kenneth Williams is an icon.
absolutely.
In the UK.
And he's the one in all those movies, in all the Carry On movies. Those great, oh, infamy, they've all got it in for me.
I should explain this.
Classic line.
That is Carry On Cleo, which is about Julius Caesar. So when it's infamy, they've all got it in for me.
Thank you. Comedic chops are coming back.
Yeah.
No, but it was like saying, watching an actor not know how to play the part and go through all the physical stuff and everything, and a director trying to align with him, forgetting what the play was really about. Geraldine McEwen, great actress, was the nurse. Duncan McRae, this iconic Scottish, deadpan comedian, actor, but he films in the 50s, whatever. It was a fantastic cast. David Batley played Dennis, the other part. And Dennis was, he was a blue baby, I remember, David. So he had this very, we've talked about it, when he had this lugubrious quality. Very lugubrious. It was a great cast.
Yeah.
But of course, we did 6 weeks. It was a disaster. Everywhere we went, we got booed because he was anti-Catholic.
Yeah.
And we played Manchester when they were like saying, "Disgrace, this place should be taken off the stage." But you learn a lot when people, when all the old grannies came out, everybody, "Oh, it's a disgrace, this place, the swearing, whatever." And it was just, we were on the cusp of going, you could say what you wanted in the West End. And we died in Wimbledon. I'll never forget, and Kenny came in on the last night, whatever, and he says, he's like, well, yeah, it's been wonderful working with you. Oh, you've been peeing in the sink, have you? Oh. But you've got to understand the theatrical side of somebody that is so, I adored him, and the play, and it was like, I wanted to say, this play could have been great. And I did actually say to Joe, well, meanwhile, Joe and I used to go out in the evenings drinking.
Yeah.
Orton was one of those people. He was dressed in actually go see the movie because Gary's performance is fucking extraordinary.
Yeah.
No, I got to say, Oldman's performance from somebody who knew Orton, that sort of cheeky air of, it wasn't that he's gay. Joe was just, again, one of those people out there like Quentin Crisp, completely different. Yeah. His own guy, fearless, wrote great. Lived with Halliwell, this strange guy who never appeared. Halliwell, who wore wigs. Yeah. He never appeared on our show. It's an amazing story. And
all ends badly.
Alfred Molina's great. They're both great in the movie. But it was a fascinating experience of a great stage failure. Because I said to Joe, we used to go, I said, they'll do this play in a year, like off Broadway, the equivalent. They did.
Yeah.
It made Michael Bates and Simon Ward and Kenneth Branagh. Yeah. They three did it off Broadway. The funny business.
Now, you mentioned Quentin Crisp, who, of course, was played by your very good friend, John Hurt. Yeah. You two, your friendship lasted, sadly to say, a lifetime in his case.
Well, yeah, on and off. Johnny, we all went on different ways, but I was deep love. When somebody you've known somebody since you were 17, and Johnny was, I think, he'd been to St. Martin's Art School. So he was a little older, and he transferred over to RADA. So Johnny was about 4 years older than me. But we shared a flat together the last few months, and he got me my first part in movies. Right. He was doing this movie called The Wild and the Willing, which turned out to be the rank organization's attempt at the new wave. Which, is bound to end badly. It is. It could have been, it was halfway there. Again,
what's that like as an actor?
Because
you and I have talked a lot, and I know that you are wonderfully acerbic, and one of my heroes for that, because you're kind of a no bullshit kind of guy, and I like that a lot. Plus, you remind me of my crazy uncles. And I like that a lot. But what is it like when you talked about it here with Loot, but throughout your career, when you're in something, you're like, oh man, this just is like, I see the gem here and we're just not getting to it.
Oh, it's very difficult. It's like something with witches. Like, well, that was the same thing. There's not many in your life, but sometimes, you feel it's a shame. That was an inevitability, but it was a fascinating car crash to be in. Mm-hmm. And I didn't, it was because I remained friends with Ken. I mean, I'm one of the people that you went out to his flat, once. Yeah. Ooh, hello, dear, have a cup of tea. Mm-hmm. I mean, I still have these fond memories, even though he screwed up the play, basically. But it wasn't meant, I always think it wasn't meant to be, It's like, why the hell did I get the part of Al Swearingen? I mean, I wasn't exactly the first person you think of to play a Western saloon keeper. I'm not being funny now, because no, but wait.
I mean, brothel
don't forget it. But it changed. Yeah, but it changed with Milch. I mean, the thing is, whatever happened, sometimes fortuitous shit happens your way. I mean, Sexy Beast had come out, which whatever.
Yeah.
So you're going to be one of the first foreign imports. You know what I mean? If they look, and Hollywood has never been. And it's a great place. Never shy about importing talent from wherever it is, where they believe, especially actors. So, and whatever happened to that, I remember sitting in London, Gwen and I thinking, what the hell am I going, because I'd just finished a BBC six-parter thing, whatever. I think, we'll go with America, but they got this call, American TV series. No, I don't want to do a TV series. Well, it's David Milch, Walter Hill directing, and it's HBO. You say, well, excuse me.
May I start this conversation again?
I mean, the three things. You go, wow, that would be really nice. So I came over, and it happened. Mm-hmm. And next minute, you're filming it. And then the filming of Deadwood happened, which was the most incredible creative 3 years you've ever spent. Mm-hmm. Somebody who is... I mean, I've said now, I never get tired of saying it, David Milch is the reason that Deadwood is. We can all say, yeah, we added to it, and we were terrific, and the actors were great, and the sets were great, and it was great, but Milch was the beating heart. In every sense, you see, I've gone into my Al voice. No, it's funny how you notice things. I mean, but yeah, I mean, that's... and I was so touched the other night to be there when we showed that on that big screen, and you go in the first few frames. If you've made a movie for television, you've not made a movie to be shown at the Cinerama Dome. But in the first few frames, you go, we're going to be okay with this one.
Yeah.
A lot of times, no, but it's a funny business. Sometimes things fail for no reason, or they get hammered. You go, why did that happen? But it just happens. I mean, I did a comedy called Hot Rod first after I did, and I knew that was good. Does anybody ever see it? It's funny. Yeah, that's what I mean. And I knew it, but I thought it was a fun film to make, and they were very talented, Andy Samberg and those guys. It was great, and I thought, and they hammered it. But when it came out, but of course it became a cult movie down the time. People like it, and it's funny. I mean, in fact, my son said, "Dad," I said, "Yeah." I said, "I know." I said, "There's some great shit in there." But it's like saying, but they hammered it because, occasionally it's like romantic comedies. They'll come on, critics will go, oh yeah, and then suddenly for no reason go, that's there. And they'll pick on one. No, it's no reason, they'll pick on one. And that's what they do. Because what they really are is, they're bookkeepers in cemeteries, critics,
Well, as a professional TV critic, I'll be leaving now.
I know, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean, Dominic? You're not going to like every actor.
No, look, but
critics have a job to do, but suddenly this herd mentality happens sometimes on something.
That is, I think
you know what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. No, I'm not. You have to have that there to get the message out. You have to get to some shows that have been found by critics that it would never have. It's like the Z Channel, the forerunner of everything good on TV. I mean, you'd never have had. The great movie, what do you call it? The Michael Cimino, Heaven's Gate. You'd never have had that. Like the Z Channel played that full, 3 hours. I remember watching it. Like back when you had one button. Remember that load there? You had one button, you press it, Z Channel. And he played like Once Upon a Time in America, uncut, the edited version, when you didn't see those things. And if you love movies, and I've always loved movies, I was brought up to like them by my dad and my mum. And it's great when you see that stuff. And now you've got the choice is so amazingly unlimited where you can see it. I mean, it was always going to happen. They always said that was Lou Wasserman's big mistake. He didn't see cable coming.
No.
but,
And Lou made very few mistakes. Now let's talk about this, okay? So we talked about Loot, and we've talked about Deadwood, the movie. So we kind of bookended a little bit there. But let's talk about some other things. So, Lovejoy, American Gods. Yes, Grace Jones's Slave to the Rhythm narration, which has always been a particular favorite of mine.
Oh, that was great. No, that was fabulous. I was sitting in a fish and chip shop in London in 19...
Any story that starts with, I was sitting in a fish and chip shop in London.
A very good one. It used to be called Gilles, best haddock and chips in London, right behind the Gate Cinema in London. And I was sitting in there, and I think Gwenny and I, my wife, we've been outside. I forget. Anyway, we're having fish and chips in there, and there's Trevor Horn, producer, who I'd known forever, who goes, "Hello, Ian. What are you doing after supper?" I said, "I don't know, Trevor, why?" He said, "Well, I need a voice, and Orson Welles is dead." Well, I'm fine. So he said, "Let's go back." And he had these wonderful sound studios, which are down in just Notting Hill Gate. They're down Ladbroke Grove, down the road. And we went there. And Trevor, produces in the most dynamic way, you know.
You know who Trevor Horn is?
Trevor Horn,
Radio killed the video killed the radio star.
And produced everything this side or whatever.
He owned the first part of the 80s.
Yeah. And he rolls a superbly huge spliff and then sits behind his desk, and goes, "All right then." And so I read out this amazing. I said, "Can I have some of that? If I'm going to read this crap, I'm So then we had the greatest 2 hours. We played around with it, and lo and behold, Grace wouldn't know me from Adam. I've never met her, but it's nice being part of our. And that was the genius of the guy she was with. John Michael Good, wasn't he? He was the
he
was like the Malcolm McDowell. Those kind of people who create sort of, they have an image of something. I get that. Well, Malcolm McDowell's Buffalo Girls is one of the great records.
That's true. And then Buffalo Girls came when Malcolm McLaren did it.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, exactly. So so look at some of these, and then there's ones like I remember when I was younger. I remember seeing you in Jesus of Nazareth as well. Bad guy. If you want to start out with...
You see, Zeffirelli, you said, "No, Ian, he's not a bad guy."
No.
There's this saying, no, you cannot say this. There's this saying in Italy.
Judas Iscariot is the OG of bad guys.
Judas was there, sitting on the right hand of God, waiting for Jesus to come.
Waiting for something.
Otherwise, who fulfill the story? You have to have a bad guy to fulfill. Otherwise, it's not a good story.
Yeah.
Who are you going to blame? The Sanhedrin? I mean, that was a great experience doing that, watching them all. And we all went down that day when it was Anthony Quinn playing the chief rabbi of the Sanhedrin. And then you had Olivier, Richardson, and Mason playing all the high Jewish priests. And you said, "You got to watch this because you." So we all got down there, and Anthony Quinn is tearing his robes, he's ripping his robes off, and there's Olivier standing there going, Tony, you're sure you're doing like that? Wicked shit. And Richardson going, "I don't know what." I mean, all these amazing voices in Anthony because they've done plays together. They don't make them like that anymore, you know what I mean? And every time we were sitting on a hillside, with Anne Bancroft, who was great. And we're sitting there, and she's just Mary Magdalene. We're sitting there, and up comes the. Can you hear me at the back without this? Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah. And up comes the Mary Magdalene, and up comes the lunchbox. People come by with a box. They go, "There you go." And it was like a banana, a sandwich, and an apple, whatever, and a bottle of water, and you're by the roadside. And we're sitting there, and there's and Bancroft, and there's who else is there? Who else is there? That's Stacey Keach, and there's me and whatever, and we're sitting there, and then suddenly Zeffirelli's up on this sort of plateau, and this Mercedes comes up, driven by Dorino, who was his mute Regian Calabrian aide. This little guy. He looked like one of the assassins in John Wick. He was like 90 pounds soaking wet skin and didn't speak. And whips up in this Mercedes to the top of this plateau. Out of the back comes a camping table, a tablecloth, knife and fork, silver thumb, pasta in the air like that. And Zephyr and Franco goes, "Ciao, darlings." That's how they make movies. And Anne Bancroft says, "What the fuck is this? What a fucking banana and a cheese sandwich?" That's Zeffirelli, darling. Boy, you're so wonderful. My actors, you're so good.
Are you going to write a book? Why?
No. I'd rather talk about it now. It's much more fun. Once you've written it down, the stories are out.
That's true. Well, you could podcast the fuck out of it.
There's too many of those. It's like,
So I want to go through some more.
American Gods, we forgot about that. Great show.
We're here all night, Ian. Trust us. We're not forgetting
We're coming back for season 3.
Yes. Which I broke on deadline, which I was very proud to do. So we're gonna go from this, okay? So I want to talk about that. So you did Kings, and then yes, thank you, because Kings was a great show that just didn't find the right time. If Kings came out today, it'd probably be one of the #1 shows on television.
It wasn't. Well, that's the classic case of saying
2009.
The network saying we want a cable show. Can we do it? And they couldn't do it. They're not built to do cable shows. No. You can't do 24 of those a year. We got through 13, and the management changed in the middle of it, but they managed to let us make us all of them. And it was a good show. Michael did a great job writing it, and terrific direction. It was an interesting show to make.
A lot of people, I remember when it first came on, there was sort of, it felt like it was in a whirlwind that you were trying to find out where it was going to go.
Francis Lawrence, who did it, I think Francis and Michael and me worked very closely together with that, and sort of like it was the story of Saul, David. Yeah. It was the beginnings. It was the book of Samuel in the Bible is what it is, and it was a book about faith, and it was a very moot at the time with the son-in-law Dylan Baker playing like the Dick Cheney character, and the industrial complex, and if America was a king and I was the king, and the family was like the sort of rather Shakespearean kind of husband and wife deal, and the brother-in-law ran the industrial complex, and it all got complicated. Canada was the north. There was some stuff. There was some good stuff in it,
But you worked with Michael on that, and then you went to work with Michael with Brian Fuller on American Gods.
Yeah.
Now, American Gods gone through a lot of changes behind the camera, mildly, but it's remained excellent on screen from what we've been seeing. It's obviously an adaptation. How many of you guys have seen it? It's yes. Adaptation of Neil Gaiman's amazing 2001 novel. And now you're coming back for a season 3. Things got pretty rough in season 2 between the old gods and the new gods. And Ian, of course, plays Mr. Wednesday. And if you've seen the show, I'm going to tell you something you know. If you haven't, I'm about to break something to you. He's also the Norse god Odin, just father of all fathers. It got pretty rough on season 2 with you guys. The new gods and the old gods really went to war.
Well, we had to get back to the sort of story that we were trying to lay out, and then lay it out now, and end the season so we can pick up the book and maybe finish the book in the next couple of years, however. That's what they're working on now.
Yeah.
Because the book, it's Gaiman again, great storyteller. Yeah. Doesn't call himself a writer. He's a storyteller. Yeah. Great storyteller. And that's the way the story should be told, with these side roads going off into other avenues. And it'll always be a difficult show, and I'm kind of happy about that, knowing which way to go. But we have a series of writers now who are pitching the way to go for the season and how to finish the book and how to cooperate with Neil. And Neil's got his own show.
Yeah, Good Omens.
Good Omens coming out soon. But it was a complicated year, but kind of fascinating. It's one of those shows, it's not an easy show to do. But neither was Deadwood, in a completely different kind of way. Deadwood had a showrunner of genius behind it. This is difficult when you had 2 excellent showrunners who, for whatever reason, fell out with the network, went away. It wasn't perfect the first season. I thought we got away with it. No, I think we had to have a big finish and came back again. And then season 2 had to get back to the book. So again, the naysayers or whatever, because they'll go, it was too far away. Brian and Michael we missed them, but we didn't miss them. So you go back to the book, so you can't. So you're treading a fine line. The thing is, when you've got to follow your own vision of what Neil wanted, which is tell his story. It's going to be touching. It's just this season, Shadow needs to step up more, the way it's written. Yeah. Which will be good, which will happen with Ricky, because it's not easy. It's because the character's written as a cipher, kind of in the book. He's your guide. But in television, you need to activate that character more. We did some terrific things last year. I think the relationship of Matt Sweeney and Laura, that's an invention added enormously to the plot. The actors are terrific. The sort of the triangle between the only believer, who's the Muslim, the only believer in the show, and the relationship between him and the jinn. There's some interesting stuff in there.
And the really interesting thing was one particular episode that actually, because most of American Gods, besides the backstage, you guys call it, elements where for lack of a better way of putting it, you get all gaudy. Yeah. But otherwise, most of it takes place in present day. Yeah. But you had an episode to really give a sense of the longevity of Odin and how the centuries had passed that actually took place in 1930s America, that touched on a lot of different elements, the rise of fascism in America, which is a hidden history that people don't like to talk about. But there were giant rallies at Madison Square Garden with swastikas. And Mr. Wednesday is running essentially a cabaret. And we meet Thor, for lack of an expression, and all these other things. What was that like for you, that playing around that? Because that took the character to a whole other part. Whereas Mr. Wednesday is campy and a little bit over the top, and that, sometimes you feel people are just going to tattoo it, Ian, roguish, McShane on everything. But this one took you to a different place. And it was really fascinating to watch, because it was like watching Olivier and the Entertainer.
That was kind of, I guess, you said it now. I mean, I'm behind it. No, they wanted to do a backstory on Mr. Wednesday, and to go back and sort of, I think I flipped them one day and said, maybe I should sing next year, whatever. But they came up with something, again, it wasn't flippant, it was good for the story, it led you, Shadow and I were off on an adventure in the car, trying to find my spear, Gungnir, my holy spear, which has been, and I find it, and again, it was funny having it, it's in a mall, run by dwarves. Yes. They're the only ones that can. No, I mean, it was just, and I don't like dwarves. It was a very, and then you go back, and then I reminisce about my son. Yeah. About wake up from a dream and whatever, and they go back, and it's in the 30s, I'm running this club, and Telephone Boy's in there and whatever, and it was good. It was, but it directed very well by Rachel Talalay. She did a great job on it. And you do that in 10 days, you're proud of it,
Yeah.
Something like that. It's what you do, and it was kind of, it came out very well. Thank you, Dominic.
You are welcome, sir. I think it deserves a round of applause. It was excellent. Emmy voters. Emmy voters. You talked about something earlier when you were talking about watching Deadwood the movie at the premiere. And you talked about, look, we call it a movie, but it's an HBO movie. It's not meant for a big screen. But then you see it. You've done everything you can do as an actor, including musicals with Eastwick. This is an age of TV. This is the era of peak TV. Last night, a show that you appeared on rather famously for a short period of time, Game of Thrones, ended. But, now this is the era when overpaid TV critics like myself say television's where it's at. Do you think that?
It always has been. It's just the way you approach it. When first play I did on television was live, called Thank You and Good Night, written by a very famous Robert Mueller. It was a two-hander about, I was a pop singer. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Pop singer. Taking the train back from a disastrous gig in Brighton. And the train takes exactly 1 hour, Brighton to London, then you did. And it was set on and she's a lady violinist, Sarah Bedell, playing the lady violinist who's finishing an abortive affair with somebody. And it's the two of us. Of course, she'd gone on the train going back. And it was live for TV and sliding doors and talking and fascinating. Live TV. I did The Caretaker live on TV too, with in '65, which that won the Emmy, I think, for the international exam. With Pinter. They're obsessively there watching us every second of the way. I played Mick, and one of the few times that Roy Kinnear was wonderful. Mm-hmm. And the other guy played the brother. The part was written, Johnny Reese, it was written for him by Harold. And it's one of the few times, because Harold would write parts for actor friends, that never got to play them, because they were always not sufficiently well known or whatever. But Johnny was great, it was written for him. And it was, he was there the entire time, doing Pinter's extraordinary thing. Doing Pinter, I did the Homecoming.
You did
Homecoming 10 years ago.
Which was, I guess, the 40th
anniversary, of doing it. And Pinter's...
Hold on a second. That deserves a round of applause, for sure.
But Pinter's bizarre, because I think...
We can just end on that, because everybody agrees with that part.
I know, you're right. I'm getting tired, I think. No, I'm just only because I was looking at an audience thinking that the times I've seen a Pinter play, it's the weirdest feeling. Acting Pinter is the best thing in the world. Best dialogue, you have the best time. I mean, really. You find stuff in there, and don't ever pause. I spoke to him. It's all bullshit, all that, but there's a pause. I mean, that was the way of, that's like Peter, that's why they invented this, Peter Hall, about this mystique about Harold never paused. If you watched him playing his own plays, doing
Really?
it, when he acted, he never paused.
Yeah.
And the last thing he said to me on the phone, I called him, I think, the night before we opened, and he said, there's a few laughs in there, darling, have a good time, which is, that's what actors say, there's a few laughs in there. There are enormous laughs. But in an audience, when you watch every time I've seen a Pinter play as an audience, normally you feel together as an audience. You get a feeling about the theatre. You feel totally alone watching a Pinter play. I wonder what they're thinking of. There's nothing about, you really are, you're absolute, that's a gift. That's a gift of a writer, which is extraordinary, Yeah.
And so, then talking about that, to pick up on that, what was it like doing the 40th anniversary? For you, because I always wonder as actors, and I guess this is true of Deadwood too, you come back to do Al. You're going to F and blind a lot. There's going to be booze and people are going to die, and you love David's work. But is there a part where you say, I got something else to bring to this now that I've paused?
It was never like that. Deadwood was always about, and I think that's sometimes it gets richly. It was always about the work, and I can say that because everything David does is about the work. I mean, Tim will tell you those stories about incorporating stuff that happens during the day into the next scene. Really?
Yeah.
Well, hello.
Are we sharing this one?
No, just him.
Oh, wow.
It's just for me. Not mine. It's all mine. Mine.
This is like one of those. This looks like one of those old politician press conferences where there's like 18 microphones in front of you.
First of all, I'd say, thank God we have a union, yeah?
Oh, my God.
No. Should have said that in the first place, but there you go. I thought that's what right to work meant.
Yeah.
Instead of the opposite. Anyway.
So you come back. So you come back to Deadwood, but also.
No, it was all about the Dominic. I swear to God, there was never any bullshit. David, in the mornings you come in. It was the same when we did the show last year. When we did the show, I was thinking on the way up on the first day, driving through that gate in the morning in the pitch black onto this sound stage. Go in your dressing room, whatever. You walk across to the set. It's exactly the same as you remember it. David's there, makes a speech this time because he's not so adept at getting it out. But he's written everything down. And he talks about the scene. And I got to tell you, watching Milch at work, talking about a scene is one of the great things of all time. The guy is out there with genius. No, I'll tell once. When I tell the story,
absolutely.
Thank you very much. I'll tell you, and it's a rather vulgar one, but I know you'll bear with me. That the first day we...
a vulgar Deadwood story. Wow.
The first day we filmed with Paula and I, and this is going back, and it's when she shot the guy in the pilot episode, and I take her upstairs, and he's going to beat the shit, whatever he's going to do to her, and it was that scene upstairs, and Paul and I, and we're getting into it, whatever, and it's like, you meet actors, together, you feel it for them, and there's a pause, and we're sort of, and David says, may I say something? I said, absolutely, says, you gotta grab her cunt. I'd never been given that direction before. But Paula knew what he meant instantly. She went, abso-fucking-lutely. Because it's not the first thing you want. Do you mind if I grab your darling, whatever. And these days, but it was like saying, I knew what he meant. Now, that's probably wouldn't happen now on the set, but it would happen on Deadwood, yeah, because there's a different humanity going on there. There's something different. But I'm telling you that story because you knew what he meant. It wasn't, it's kind of like that putting down of something and whatever, and she did it. And all I say is that was kind of like that story. Then you'd get stories like, he'd say to me, Ian, you got that Miss MacGuffin, you got this brown paper bag, you're going over to Charlie Utter, but it's just a fucking alibi, you got the bag with you got the parcel, you're not really posting it, you're making small talk, you want to find something else out, then you walk back, and we talk about it. And then we set it up, and I do the scene, come back and walk back in the saloon and throw the paper bag, the parcel behind. He said, no, Ian, you can't throw the parcel behind the bar. I said, it's a MacGuffin. He said, no, it's got a head in it. And sure enough, that next morning, I start talking to this Indian head inside, which I really remember, Indian head, which is a wise gesture. Like, the guy, no, just, Dave, Tim tells that story about, I'll just tell another one about, they're walking backstage one day, Tim and he, and there's a couple of sort of a dodgy thing about, anyway, David bangs his head on this, and Tim goes, Jesus, David, you hurt yourself? And David goes, Jesus, could I get addicted to that? Next day, there's a scene starts with Bullock banging his fucking head. No, I mean, the guy is just, he's built to do this. He was built to do this. And it was never less than a pleasure watching the other actors do stuff. I mean, sometimes you'd hang out just to do that. And then we always had this sort of musical thing backstage. We had some serious musicians came out on. We had ZZ Top as extras. I mean, I forget, their manager was outside in the long black limousine, or they wouldn't get out of it. And they were all dressed up in like cowboy, going, talking away. I'm thinking, what the fuck? Have you ever been on a movie set? It's the most boring fucking place in the world. Unless you're actually doing it, they'd be an extra. But no, Alice in Chains, God bless, no, Jerry, they all came out and they loved the show. And it's like, kind of like, it was kind of a nice feeling, that.
Do you feel in some ways that Deadwood will be the Al will be the defining role of your career?
I have no idea. I mean, they don't come along like that. Very grateful to have got that part. I mean, that's how you approach it. But when you act it by the scruff of its fucking throat.
Yeah.
You take it and you wrangle that bastard right into the ground. I never forget, when you're those speeches, you got to be bold to get out there. You can't sort of go on. I never forget, I never went on the set with a script in my hand, never on Deadwood. I never went with the script in my hand. I had it there, but I thought, there's no point. You either have it. And then we all got into that sense. And not all of us did that, but that doesn't mean to say everybody has to do it. Everybody works a different way. You work with everybody. There's different. Watching William Sanderson work is one of the great geniuses of our business. E.B. Farnham, right? Who is one of the great, I mean, I've said it before, William Sanderson could make Shakespeare funny, which is fucking difficult. Those Shakespeare comic roles are not funny. I've seen great actors fail them, they're not. But William, and that David found a way of writing those extraordinary soliloquies for Bill, remember? Of E.B. Farnham.
I mean, I remember
which explained a character, and he became this linking, and totally in character. He could carry off that. I know, strange, I mean, extraordinary watching William work.
I remember we once said...
And he's also the god of money.
Well, and not a bad place to be.
Oh, no.
I was going to say, though, when that episode, I think he came in episode 6 of season 2 of American Gods? And it was like, I almost felt it was a little nudge, wink, wink to Deadwood fans, that he was there.
Absolutely, because Billy's one of those people, he brings something to the, what brings that ineffable quality, like Crispin does.
Yeah.
Those kind of actors are to be blessed. I mean, you go back, my favorite actors of the past, you go back to them. Like actors now, like Richard Jenkins, who I love, Richard Jenkins can do anything. Yeah, absolutely.
So who did...
I mean, now it's just off the top of your head, but going back, like Strother Martin, all those guys from the movies, you get Murray Hamilton, I mean, those great character actors that you rise up. That's where it's at with people who... I'm drawn to movies, but I'm drawn not by actors usually. I'm drawn by the project or whatever appeals to you, and I read the same way. But I love movies. Yeah, I love them.
I want to jump back a little bit to when you talk about great actors, with Richard Burton, which I'm sure there's the movie, and then there's the story behind the movie.
Well, they were the biggest. It's funny. They were at the time, and Elizabeth was making Z and Company, another movie in London, when we were making Villain in 1970. Yeah, wow. And Richard was just the greatest, great guy. We used to go in the morning. I don't forget in the morning. He had Bob, his dresser, would come and say, "Ian, first," and I'd met him before. I mean, what he said. Richard would like to go over the lines. Do you want to come in? I said, yeah, sure. I'll just put me. He said, no, bring your breakfast. Bring your breakfast. Now we're in England, right? So I'm having kippers. Kippers.
Yeah.
Smoked haddock. Yeah. On toast with lots of butter and pepper. 9 o'clock.
That doesn't sound bad.
No, it's great. But but it sounds terrible. I know what you mean. I said this to David Harbour. He went, no, God almighty, black pudding, kippers, all that kind of thing. But you know, you're in it, and it's great. Anyway, so I'm there, and Richard comes in, and I bring it in there. Richard says, I said, he said, I'll bring it in, boy. No, sit down there. I go, what's that? That's kippers. Oh, Bob, give me some kippers. So off he goes. I'm always going to I remember that Bill Murray impersonation in the Santa Claus movie. Oh, Mr. Burton. But he had this amazing voice. It was sort of like it's Welsh, like he was singing in Welsh to you, even his good morning. It was like amazing voice, amazing guy. Great, and that's great head. Anyway, and he's going on about these fucking kippers. You know, he's going on. He says, Bob, bring me some kippers. So they bring him, and we're going over the lines. Meanwhile,
I do have to start you for a sec. You have to write a book so you can do the audio book.
No, but he's doing the kippers, and he's looking at them, and he goes, and I can see, he thinks he's eating them. Oh, delicious, oh yes, yeah. Kippers, and we're going over the lines, and he goes, Bob, fine. Okay, take him away now. Bring me a salty dog, which is a triple vodka with grapefruit juice. So I said, I'll join you, absolutely. So those were the days. So you'd start off with a salty dog for breakfast, and you'd go on, and nobody was drunk. At lunchtime, you'd go in there in the pub, and you'd have a couple of drinks, and then you'd have a couple of vodkas, because everybody did.
Yeah.
And suddenly and it was fine. Nobody got drunk, you know. They've got
and some great movies.
Oh, absolutely. But it was like Richard, you know, there's a few I don't remember totally. But he's that one he made with Lee Marvin, which he steadfastly refused. He never made The Klansman.
Yeah.
I never made that movie. I was never there. Neither of them were never there, apparently. But Richard was just generous, and when we did this scene, because I played this bisexual,
his sidekick,
but driver, chauffeur, but I was also having an affair with the girl, Fiona Lewis, and he hated me for it. He was slightly masochistic, so he beat the shit out of me. So but the scene ended with us. We never actually kissed, but it ended in a provocative kind of about to happen way. But he was Richard said, you know, I'm very glad you're playing this party. And I said, why? He said, well, you remind me of Elizabeth.
Violet Eyes to Die For.
She's fantastic. Very funny.
Now,
very funny.
How many of you guys have seen Lovejoy? Yes. Well, Lovejoy ran for, there was one season in 1986, and then it came back for season 2. England had a different prime minister, 5 years had passed and what have you, and then it ran until 1994. It was here on A&E. Well, A&E Network, as it was called at the time.
I found the books in like 83. I was going through that time, I was thinking, I don't know what. You know, there's a time in your life when you're not really fitting in, as in you're doing things, but you're not quite. And I thought, well, now's the time to maybe go against everything I ever said I would do. And I'll produce a popular TV show and play in it, if I can. And I found
he directed a bunch of episodes.
Well, I used to love watching, like, you know, the great James Garner. In Rockford Files, to me, was one of the great. I mean, it is. It's a classic
Rockford
show.
Files is one of the great shows,
beautiful. I mean, written by Stephen Cannell. It's got that quality, that heroic thing. You have to have sidekicks. You have to pick the right people. You have to do it.
You have to live in a trailer.
You have to, or virtually, or not live anywhere, or live content, whatever. But you have to get the theme right. And I got these books about this antique dealer who lived in Suffolk, who's a divvy. Like he gets it. He knows the real thing. Gets these weird ticks when he does it. But books weren't that great, but they had this great premise of it. Whatever, and I knew the guy to write it, Ian Lafreniere, and my partner Alan McEwen, who I went to, and they had at the time, and Lafreniere and was writing. They wrote the classic writers of English comedy shows. They wrote Porridge, which is a huge show, and all those. And I knew Ian could write that difficult. It's like drama. It's drama comedy. It's a difficult area because you've got to be light, you've got to be smart, but you can't just not just funny the whole time. You've got to make it work. And he came up with a Bible for this, and we joined the BBC. And we did the first year, and she was a new head of drama who didn't like, because we were the first independent production. I said, I'm not working for the BBC. Jesus Christ. I said, I'll do it with you. You give us the money and we'll make it. And we did it independent. And then at the end of it, a guy came in, Michael Grade, and said, no, I really don't like this sort of method of doing this. We'd like to take the show. You can still do it. I said, okay, see you, brother. Down the road, I've got things to do. And Alan felt the same way, so we forgot about it for 3 years. Jonathan Powell then became head of the BBC. He commissioned it for head of drama. So I always loved that show. I said, well, we'll come back But I'll come back for 2 years. You got to make it for 2 years. Well, and we did, and it was one of their biggest shows. It was getting like
18 million
18, 20 million people in the early 90s.
Game of Thrones numbers.
Oh.
Game of Thrones. Just remember that. When they're tagging up, be like, I made that in 1990.
But you know, it was a good show.
Yeah.
Sunday night viewing. People said, "You've sold out. You've sold out." I said, "Yeah, no, I've sold in actually, because now I can stick around and do what I want to do for a while." I directed something. I got to know about the business a little bit. You know,
Did directing change you as an actor?
No, not really. I think directing TV is all about getting. It's all about it's. If you come in with the attitude, "I'm making my movie, don't direct TV."
Yeah.
No, I mean, the thing is, you're going to know a certain way. You know, I found it a technical exercise. Orson Welles said, you can know all about movie. You can learn it in half a day.
Yeah.
I mean, the technical side of it, what you're doing, it's a question of where your eye is and what you want to do with it. And I found, I enjoyed it because I'd always do it properly. I wouldn't just sort of say, I'll do the third one of the season. I went and did the first one of each season. So I got to prep it, got to go out, pick locations and pick the actors and have a good time with them and, make them feel comfortable and enjoy it. So it taught me a lot.
Did you make yourself feel comfortable as an actor?
I said, well, I knew what I wanted to do. When you're playing a part, Lovejoy, you've got to play the part. It's not like you're playing, you're going for heady drama every week.
Yeah.
So you're doing something in a different way. You're using all the acting skills of that in a different sense, but doing something and learning about comedy. I never played that kind of light comedy drama over a period of that time. It teaches you a lot. And she was one of Phyllis Logan, the actress I worked with, great actress. Yeah. You watched what's that English show about that house? Thank you, Downton Abbey. Yeah. She played downstairs. She played headed down Phyllis Logan.
Next time Downton Abbey's on my TV, I want to see that on the direct TV description. That English show about that house.
And Phyllis is in that, but she was in Lovejoy before that. But she's great. And Dudley Sutton, God bless you, Duds. He was in it, and it's all about. And Lafreniere created a great Bible for us to get on with the show. We did 5 years, and I said thank you, and they said, I said, I know that they want.
That's it. That people wanted to come back. I mean, in this age of
I said
revival
I've already said this, and and I know has the rights. And I've said to him, if you're going to bring it back. And the classic way is to introduce it. Keep talking about Lovejoy for this episode, and then Lovejoy walks in the door, and it's a 5'6" blonde or brunette, gorgeous-looking woman who says, "Hello, I'm Lovejoy," because he had a daughter in the show. So bring it back as a woman. There's a million plots you can do, and I'm not just being, bowing down to our female gender. It's like it's logical. It's that time. Because it's not a show about, it's a better, I mean, what are you going to put? Some other actor who's going to impersonate me, playing the part? Or I'm going to play, heading towards, I'm going to be an expert in, I don't know, old chamber pots or whatever. What am I saying? Lovejoy, I've got to leave now, whatever. Or really, it's like saying, you've done that, I've been there.
Yeah.
It's very nice to be asked back. But I said, that's the way to go. Put some twist on it. You can come in, that allows me to come in occasionally and go, "Hello, darling, how are you?"
Can you change my chamber pot, please?
Can you change my chamber? Whatever, but I'm saying, but it's like, you've got to put a twist on it. It's like shows come back. That's why I was pleased about Deadwood, that it wasn't just coming back for the sake of coming back. They actually did it properly. And it looks like, it's been warmly received because, it's good. It
is good, actually.
The people have changed, the character changed. Alice and David once said, and it's a maxim that he said, I'm not going to have you come down every episode the stairs, get a blowjob, kill somebody with a knife, and make a long speech. You did that. You made that.
Again, on the description on my TV, Deadwood.
But that's the
Ian McShane comes down the stairway, gets a blowjob, kills someone, makes a speech.
Well, that's what, if people love, they go, "Oh, I love that bit," when you go, and then you think of all the other stuff. And that was what was great about Deadwood. Yeah, of course, there's moments like that. Yeah, you treasure, but if you had to do it, but just, no. That was Al when he could vomit out about himself. That's the only time he could be about, I recognize, because I'm playing David, In many ways.
When you look back on your career, is there something that you see as a through line? There's something, there's always these descriptions of Ian McShane plays roguish role, which is, I just think is a boring cliche and not at all thoughtful. But for you, what do you, when you look over the trajectory of your career so far, John Wick 4 coming, Where do you see? What do you see for that? You're like, yeah, that's what I do. I do these things.
Well, it's like that's what you're supposed to do for. That's what they hire you for. That we're like, we're a dying breed of that kind of actor that gets you ground things. It's very gratifying. You've reached the stage whereby you know what you want to do, but you don't come in there. You want to know, well, what do you want me to do in this? But or you see it. You see it before you. And I guess, it's you taken for granted a bit, but that's kind of nice in a way. In terms of like roles you do, it's like it's and they come along. It's like the part I enjoyed Ray Donovan a lot. Yeah. But they never developed it. I've had these.
What about Pirate when you did Pirates?
I've hinted that. Pirates?
Yeah.
Well, if a Pirates, is going to be cut down to nothing because of the speed of the way they edit the movie. So whatever you put it on the screen, but you know what's going to happen to it when you see it. It's all going to be, it was fun to do. Johnny, I love working with him. It's fine. Jeffrey, it was fine. Nice experience.
Yeah.
Very nice experience. But, the movie, you know what it's going to be. It's popcorn edited. That's why John Wick isn't. John Wick's very different. John Wick has got some kind of weird soul to it, which is great. But like Ray Donovan, that was a character I want to explore more. It was again the year that Ann Biderman had left, so they were in flux. And they brought you in as a kind of and I love Liv, terrific actor. Working with him, oh yeah. And the Sean Paula was in that, but it never the character was great. What a billionaire, bisexual studio boss who's an alcoholic, which you made that a bit into it. It got interesting, but it never, because again, it's the story. The show has so many other areas in it. It didn't have time to explore that one. And there's an actor you go, well, you forgot about me, And if you're in a series, you think, what a waste! I never got to play they got to play a scene with John Voight in it, which would have been fun. John's a very fine actor. It would have been fun to do that, but shows have different things in mind, so you've always got to be, aware of that, what you're doing.
When you look at projects...
Well, like doing Deadwood, I like doing Game of Thrones, that one-off. I did that because, it was fun. It's always nice to get, it's nice to go back to Europe on an airfare, yeah.
But I have to say,
But that's not, no, that's too cheap a line.
That monologue you did was pure Ian McShane.
Yeah,
it was and I felt like that's why they hired you. Because they're like, you're the guy who can stand on the side of the mountain and do this.
Because it wasn't
was it 2 pages?
That. It was a guy who was a peacenik. It was a guy who, and there was something to, I thought, it was a great thing to be able to do. But inside the whole show of it is something else. It's a guy who was maybe one of those, Lanairs, whatever they're called, the Westeros or whatever, citizen, whatever it was, and he became a peacenik.
Yeah.
But he was also bringing the Hound character back again, and I like Rory. He's lovely. We had, and it was a great 3 days in Belfast. And it was nice to go back to Belfast, the town which I'd been back since the Troubles, which had changed a lot, thank God. And that's one of the great things about Game of Thrones has done. It's brought Belfast, brought Northern Ireland back, actually. Pumped a lot of money into the area, Good for it, tourism. People go.
There's a Game of Thrones museum.
That's what it's absolutely. No, but it's hugely important. I stayed in that hotel. Talked to it. They have this thing on this, the most bombed hotel in Europe, the Europa. Yeah. And that night it was overtaken by a hotel in Croatia. They lost their billing the following day. I'm fucking upset. We lost their billing. We're no longer the most bombed hotel in Europe. I love that accent. It's so difficult.
They might get it back, unfortunately, the way things are going over there now, sadly. Well, over in Northern Ireland. Now resurrections of the Troubles.
Brexit will do it, if anything.
Brexit's going to destroy everything.
Brexit, but it's kind of sad. They're still screwing around still. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. But nobody does here anyway. So be like Italy. Just carry on, But even they're going a little the other way. But just get on with it,
You are now at this stage in your career where I can't think of anything that you could have done that you haven't done. Is there? Well, you're like, I'd love to do a Marvel movie. But you've already got a franchise now.
You've got John Wick, which, grew from this wonderful little independent movie into this, No, when I was distracted there by thinking, you're supposed to think then about, you get serious, an actor gets serious. Is there a part? And they start going, I think I've got a Lear in me somewhere. Fuck Lear! No, I mean, but that's it. There's Hamlet. They should be in moratorium on Hamlet for 20 fucking years. If I hear one more variation saying I played it as a neurotic young man, that's what I think. I don't give a shit.
No, you have to wear the turtleneck.
You have to wear the turtleneck, or you have to do the ghost, or you have to do the gay Hamlet, and then you're the speedy and the nice Hamlet. So who the fuck knows? It's a great play, but don't kill it. You know, too many young people play. They can't play it. That's what I'm saying. You're about 75. I'm the right age to play Hamlet now. Mentally, completely fucked, but still going.
That's an excellent transition to our next stage of today's interview. I'm playing the Dave Allen version of this, by the way. If you're British, if you know that, you might know. No, you didn't say I did the leg cross and everything. Yeah.
I know.
It's very well. You have to because Dave Allen was this
a monologist.
I mean, Raconteur doesn't quite describe it.
No, it's great Irish.
He gives you a bit of a run for your money.
No. I did the show. I loved it. I knew it.
Really?
I did his no, it was lovely. The best one, yeah. Dave was a very special comic. He had that very, like kind of, well, I mean, he modeled himself on, they're very difficult. If I may go back, it just reminds me of when they said be funny at drama school. We had this class, and drama school was great. It only comes back to you later how great it was. I knew nothing. I came from playing.
You went to RAD.
I went to the Royal Academy. Yeah,
RAD.
But it's like, you know, it comes back to you later. All that stuff you do, wearing tights and doing restoration comedy and doing ballet and fencing. It's great, fantastic. But at the time you go, geez, here we go again. But you know, you're trying to catch the eye of the girl. Who's also fencing with you, whatever, because that's it. I mean, I went to a, grammar school, whatever. But it was fantastic, rather. And what was I lost? I was lost in ballet for a moment there. Yeah. What were we going to?
We were making very inside joke Dave Allen jokes.
Dave Allen.
Yeah.
No, and a comedy. And Peter Barkworth, a marvelous English actor, character actor, ran a class called Technique. Sounds insane, but it was actually great. And he'd make you do things every week. Right, come in next week, you're a stand-up comic.
Did you have to do the clown walk?
Excuse me, can I finish this one? Thank you.
I'm doing the Dave Allen role. You can't stop.
You're fine. I know, but this was funny because you can tell a few jokes. I love a jokes. I used to tell jokes, whatever. But I thought, really funny, yeah, stand-up comic. So I thought Bob Newhart at the time was big. So I translated his baseball routine into cricket. When he gets on the phone and tries to call the Olympics to sell cricket as a sport for the Olympics. I died a fucking death. I thought, fellow actors in the same class. I'm going, yeah. So what do I do? And I'm going like, well, you have your short leg and a fast bowler and a medium, and the stumps are off. And I'm going, and you're sweating halfway through it. I'm thinking, geez, and I'd rehearsed it so well. I thought, oh fuck this. Anyway, I finished it. And went, well, sorry, Peter, it didn't go down too well. A guy I knew told two of my jokes to the class. He went, my mum and dad were in the iron and steel business. My mother irons, my father steals. And my dad, what a marvelous man. Marvelous man, I love my dad. Never forget the last words he ever said. Fuck me a bus! Exactly. Roars of laughter. I thought, those are my jokes. Why didn't I take the simple route and tell a joke? Good lesson. But even at that age, you know it. You think, why am I trying to be smart with myself? A little too ahead of myself. Clever. So life's been that. I think it teaches you every time you do a gig. Or whatever. You come out there with but that teaches you a good lesson, about, why was I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
For my own comedy routine at the time.
But tonight, we're bringing it back. Ian McShane live on the Sunset Strip? Almost. So, we're going to go to some questions from the audience. Our audience, who many of you are actors, aren't you, if I believe correctly? Yes? Excellent. Thoroughly upstanding profession, I hear. Anyways, this is from Daniel.
Rogues and Vagabonds.
Memoir title. Just saying.
Rogues and that's what David Niven wrote the funniest book about it, about being, you pay, they pay you to wait in movies. It's great. I mean, it's a great way of working without working, in a sense. I mean, you're always working. It's underrated, but it's overrated. But it's if you get lucky at it, you got to have luck, and you got to have patience. Sometimes you don't work. I mean, gay actors, you lose. I mean, I remember kids at drama school I worked with. Never saw them again. Or maybe saw them in whatever. It's cruel business. Cruel.
It's interesting what you were saying earlier about that, when you were at that stage in your career in the 80s where it just was like, there wasn't a pillar firing, and you took it to a different direction.
I was still looking for, I was lucky. I was still looking, I was still working a lot and doing stuff, but it's like not the right stuff. So, but what I wanted, but I was fortunate enough to change another direction, and it worked out,
What is that like for an actor? The highs and lows when you find yourself in that place where you have to take a role that you really don't want to take.
Well, you can make that work. I think the only one I did do an injustice. Now, I'll just tell the story against myself. I came over and I was doing a play here back in the 90s. Play I wanted to do, and at the same time, they offered me this a show. What was it? Babylon 5, the very last episode ever, a 2-hour version.
Oh, this. I've seen this particular episode, and I see you look at a certain person's face who was once playing the President of the United States on television.
I know, but
and it's very uncomfortable to watch.
No, well, Martin and I,
It's Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen and I both did 2 movies around this time, looking at each other thinking, why the fuck are we here? It's like, looking at each other going, why are we doing this? And no, I mean, I did another movie, like the year before in like Puerto Rico, and there was Martin again. And suddenly I'm going like, why are we? But anyway, that's another story. But you're there because you're there for other reasons. You're there to whatever. Puerto Rico is not a bad place to be, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, this Babylon 5, and I took it, and the dialogue, and I forget the first day, and that was the closest I came, and I got in there, and I was dodgy on the lines. I'd never, ever been dodgy on the lines before. Never.
It was all that tech talk.
Oh, it was the worst written shit you've ever seen. Yeah, but I can't excuse that.
Yeah.
I chose to say yes. How many can repeat quad angle 4 times backwards? I mean, all that kind of technical made no sense. But I did actually go and say, I said to them, I don't think can I give you your money back? I don't think this is going to work out. It's really going to be, no, we love you. I said, no, but it's got, anyway, it was one of, that's the one time I felt like I wasn't up to myself. In like I hadn't prepared well because that's what I'm known for. Mm-hmm. And you haven't prepared. And you got nobody to blame. You can't go blaming the show. You can't suddenly say, no, I didn't do it. No, that was me. And that teaches you a lesson. But it never, I mean, years before, never. It was like a shock. And then you start to feel like, Jesus. Then you say, no, I'll get it together. And you get it together, but that's when it's, no, I'll never go through that again. Because it's not healthy, not good. But again, you learn from everything. You got to. But acting is a weird thing to do. I mean, it's a thing you can do now like the drop of a hat because it's what you do. But again, it's the acting quality that you do or try to. And it's very exciting. There's never been a time now when you see all these, pop up everywhere. Never seen so many. There's so much work around, which is great for actors. Great for actors, technicians, and, it all gets seen. I mean, I'm sure it's going to dry up sooner or later. But it's all about content. But there is never...
People keep saying that, but it doesn't seem to happen.
No, it doesn't. There's a thirst out there. And there's lots of good stuff. There's lots of bad stuff out there, but you can shift it out.
For you, and this talks a little bit about the thing you talked about earlier with Deadwood. So there's the big screen Ian McShane, and there's the smaller screen Ian McShane, and then there are lots of people who watch Ian McShane on these because they're on the subway going home from work or the tube, and they didn't see American Gods last week, so they watch it on this. Does that matter to you? Because some people do. They're like, I hate that stuff. People should watch a movie on a big screen, and it should be...
the snobism of TV, which never existed with British actors. I mean, we never... That was very much like, suddenly American actors now... they'll do TV and then they'll do commercials. They always did commercials abroad.
But in Tokyo.
That was a big, in Tokyo, they always did it years ago. It was always far away. There was always this weird disconnect. Now anybody can do anything. You can advertise whatever you want, you can be whatever, and you're not judged by that. You're judged by some other weird. And no, it's the technology has moved so quickly. It's impossible to keep up. You ask any cinematographer, I asked Dan Faustin, the great cinematographer the great cinematographer of John Wick. I said, film? He said, I wouldn't go back to film if you paid me. No cameraman would. They can do whatever they want digitally now. They've got this board, they do it, they've saturated, desaturated, get their lights or whatever. What cameramen used to do years ago. I mean, it's great, but they can do whatever they want to make a scene. I mean, watching Deadwood the other night, I mean, I wasn't, I thought on that screen, it looked fine on the big screen.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you'd known it was, you'd have tweaked other things more, but honestly, no, it looked amazing. And John, I mean, when you see what Dan can do, John Wick, I mean, remarkable. But that's the the advantages in technology, which will never stop coming. I mean, everybody says, oh, there'll never be, what do you call it, immersive, the immersive thing, virtual reality. Virtual,
yeah.
Of course it's coming. Of course you'll be there. They'll get it down, I mean,
Right now it's sports and porn.
Ooh.
If you're looking for a new gig, I'm telling you. Best of both worlds there, my friend. All right. Okay, so we're going to do a question. This is from Daniel. Daniel, thank you. Good question. As an up-and-coming actor just starting out, how do you know that you are doing enough to further your career? Do you have any suggestions as to what an artist can do to move closer to his goals of becoming a working actor?
No, I don't have any idea about what it takes to further your career. I don't know, you work. I never had a career in terms of like working towards, all I knew is I never wanted to join a company. Mm-hmm. I never wanted to join like a Shakespeare company. Yeah, maybe if I'd fallen like Steppenwolf or something like that. But not the Shakespeare company, the National Theatre. That's not my kind of thing. No, I don't even know where I want to have dinner tomorrow night. That's why theatre was always a problem. As much as I love doing it, but pain in the ass after a while. I mean, I used to love it in New York. There's a weird feeling in New York where it's like you get the feeling at like about 7 o'clock. Everybody's getting ready to go to the theater. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
That's a weird thing about New York. You get that feeling. I should walk to the theater every night.
On Sundays, as an I grew up in New York.
Yeah,
as an though I had no idea what Americans did in the summer until 1982. Because I always went to England. I had no idea what you did in the summer here. But I get the New York Times every week, and I'm a TV critic. I'm an entertainment journalist. I'm like, there are all these theater ads. But where's the Avengers or the John Wick ad? There's all these theaters ad because New York is obsessed with theater. Obsessed.
Completely obsessed. But it is that feeling. Never get it in London when they'll play that, but in New York, I'm not feeling that. Everybody's going to the theater that time of night. And it's very adrenaline making. I've always found it kind of, there's a wind beneath you in New York when you do a play, I always felt, which I didn't get from other places. So I did some interesting plays here at, in Los Angeles, The Matrix, it's great theater, great experimental theater. I did Inadmissible Evidence there by Osborne. Mm-hmm. And I did the Pinter play, what's it called? The Lovers. What's it called? They've just done the movie. They've just done it in London. They're always doing it. Betrayal, thank you. Yeah, Betrayal, thank you. Yeah, they're always doing it. Yeah. I did that here. Great. Terrific to do it. But it's like,
but you are very attached to Harold Pinter as an artist.
I always was, but it's like, I enjoyed that sort of rehearsing it and playing it rather like the Russians did, I mean, I'll never forget seeing the Russian Chekhov in 1962 at the World Theatre. It was the most staggering thing I've ever seen, the acting. Well, they live it, Mm-hmm. That company lived it. I mean, it was like the most extraordinary, it was like, wow. Well, there they were. I also loved the American version. I remember, they came up, they got booed off the stage. They did it was George C. Scott, who I later worked with, Yeah. I mean, I got to work with those people, not just Richard Burton. George C. Scott, amazing. Mm-hmm. We're in a caravan in Paris doing Murders in the Rue Morgue, and George says, let's have a warm beer and watch, what's she called? The singer, Jeanette MacDonald. Let's watch it. Jeanette MacDonald have a warm beer. I said, why a warm beer? It's like, what? But there we are, George. And then George would say, are we still in fucking Paris? I said, yeah, you're still in fucking Paris. We're still there. But unbelievable, those kind of people you work with. I mean,
and they worked with
they
worked with you.
Yeah, but those are fucking legends. So you work with Mitchum. They're also deeply rounded human beings. They're not some Dutch actor who's got. They're people who've lived a life, really lived life. They've been through awards, they've been through whatever. They've lived lives, whatever.
Do you think those actors?
They don't make them like that anymore.
No. Fighting words.
No. I'm saying I'm saying because you have lived a life.
Yeah.
I'm not saying young actors don't live a life. Sure, but it's like saying have they got So I was saying, you know, I'd love to play Hamlet. Anybody out there? Yes,
I'd be scared for other people. I sort of know how it's going to go. You see, I know how it ends.
I'd make it Scottish.
I think it would be Hamlet, and then somewhere you'd become Claudius, and then go back again.
No, I'd make it all. I'd make him Scottish, and I'd make him hate his father, hate his mother, hate his fucking mother.
Get off the fucking roof. Interesting. We say that. This is another question for you. At this stage in your career, is there a particular character from the classic repertoire, and I love this, whoever wrote this, and I'm not making fun of you, I really do love this, Shakespeare, etc., great playwright, etc., you are still keen to play?
No, I'm. You know, it's like the best thing in the world is reading a script and covering up with something, and you go, that's really interesting, you know? Or it's when they send you a script, when you know it. I love it when they send an accompanying sort of photo montage of how they want the movie to be. And then they send a letter from the producer which says, we want you to play this part because of all that you'll bring and the emotional relationship that your character will involve with the other person. And you read it, and it's the worst piece of crap you've ever read in your life. And it makes no sense at all. But I love the passion which sometimes you have to respond. But whatever. But I'm always amazed by, you know, everybody that thinks they can make a movie. I mean, a movie is a difficult thing to make. I mean, I've been involved in it since I was, 17, 18 years old. I don't know, I made about 90, like, movies on television. And movies are like because nobody knows anything, from the great quote, that they really don't. They know a certain amount, But there is a feeling that when you're working on a movie that this could be okay, depending on the way it's sold, the way it's done, you know what I mean? And it's nice when you discover something like a John Wick script, which comes and you go, who else is in this? And they go, Willem Dafoe, Johnny Legs. And you go, oh, that's good, that's interesting. And but then, you know what? You're supposed to, because you're so desperate to play a leading part in a poorly written indie drama, that you'll do it just for the sake of because you're playing the lead. No, there's much more interesting stuff done on TV. And I also love ensemble pieces. I think that's how you get the best out of everybody, except if you've got a writer that's prepared to do it, which you have in David Milch, who never let any character die on the page. I mean, that's his great strength and that's why so many people really follow him and really love Milch, actors, writers, whatever, because he brings something new to the table with every character every time out. And what he made Deadwood about was the evolution of this town. And that was the script. You got very spoiled, look, when you do that. But I've always thought, quality of the work, after doing Lovejoy and saying, I've got my own show, I know about that, I've directed a few, and then you get lucky with something like you get asked to do Deadwood, and it goes through all this tumultuous stuff, and then you do other stuff, you work movies, you go back, you do a play, you do TV, rest for a while, you do a series. I like TV series, that's what I said. Kings was really good. American Gods is fascinating. If they may never get it right, that doesn't matter. But they're still out there trying to get it. They're trying to make this sort of impossible book sort of possible, and this image of whatever. I can't wait to see what they come up with for next year, Exciting.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can't think of a better place than that. The legendary Ian McShane.